Welcome to the South Carolina Legislative Black Caucus 2021 Minority Business Forecast, bringing together South Carolina lawmakers and the state's most prominent professionals and minority business leaders discussing topics and issues vital to competitiveness and overall success. Post, share, and tag someone you know that needs information, resources, and advice, because this is a conversation you won't want to miss. But first, please welcome SCLBC Chair, Representative Patricia M. Hennigan.
Good morning and welcome to the 2021 South Carolina Legislative Black Caucus Minority Business Forecast. This is a new effort by the caucus, but one that we hope will become an annual event. The state of minority small business is very important to members of the caucus and me. This event is designed to bring together South Carolina lawmakers with the state's most prominent minority business leaders for a frank discussion of issues vital to South Carolina minority business competitiveness and overall production. This event will also link DBEs and minority businesses with state agencies and departments with independent contractual opportunities. We have assembled a knowledgeable and exciting group of panel and panelists, all given the charge by me to help South Carolina minority businesses start, expand, and achieve success. I hope you enjoy the forecast. And please remember, you can always call on me and the South Carolina Legislative Black Caucus to be on the front lines fighting for you. I welcome you to the 2021 Minority Business Forecast.
Thank you for joining us for the 2021 South Carolina Legislative Black Caucus Minority Business Forecast, bringing together South Carolina lawmakers and the state's most prominent professionals and minority business leaders, covering topics and issues vital to competitiveness and overall success. Please tag, post, and share this informative conversation filled with important information, valuable advice, and key resources. Please welcome our panelists for the Local Government Roundtable. Senator John Scott. He was first elected to the South Carolina Senate in 2008 and currently serves on various committees, including Education, Finance, Medical Affairs, Legislative Oversight, and the Banking and Insurance Committee. Prior to being elected to the Senate, Senator Scott served in the South Carolina House of Representatives from 1990 until 2008. Councilman Johnny Wright Sr. He was elected to the Orangeburg County Council in 1994 and served as the County Council Chairman since 2009. Along with being the chairman of the Orangeburg County Council, Councilman Wright also serves as the president of the South Carolina Association of Counties. Mayor Jerald Sanders was the first African-American elected mayor of the town of Swansea. Elected in 2017, Mayor Sanders also serves as the chairman of the South Carolina Conference of Black Mayors. Mayor Steve Benjamin, he's served as Columbia, South Carolina's mayor since 2010 and has won every election since. Mayor Benjamin has served as the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors from 2018 to 2019, former African American Mayors Association president from 2015 through 2016, along with many other accomplishments. And Mayor Teresa Ervin, the first African American and first woman to hold this position in Florence, South Carolina. Prior to that, Mayor Ervin served on the Florence City Council since 2010 and has been a registered nurse for 39 years. These are the panelists for today's Local Government Roundtable. Good afternoon once again, and thank you for joining us for the second panel discussion, the 2021 Minority Business Forecast for the South Carolina Legislative Black Caucus. This one is the Local Government Roundtable. And first, we're going to talk to Senator John Scott, Mayor Steve Benjamin, and Mayor Teresa Ervin. Thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Look forward to it.
Thank you. I want to remind you, please, make sure your mic is unmuted when we have the conversation. You can go back on mute when you're not speaking. I want to ask you all first, the COVID-19 pandemic, which hopefully we're almost wrapped up with now, has had a significant impact on all elements of our lives and all levels of government, federal, state, and local, as a matter of fact. How have local governments coped with the challenges brought by the pandemic. I'll start with you, Mayor Benjamin.
Thank you, Trey. We've tried to be guided by our one true north. Our one true north is the preservation of human life. And obviously, once we were able to do as much as we could in that direction, the focus has been on, once you stop focusing on saving lives or adjust it to saving livelihoods. And we decided that in the spirit of this meeting today, that we're going to focus intensely on making sure that small businesses are going to make it through the very difficult early days of the pandemic. Our Resilient Columbia fund that we established helped 323 businesses immediately out the gate, about $1.5 million with a small business stabilization fund. We've continued that effort, particularly using some federal funds through the EDA. That we've also gotten out about $2.5 million to small businesses. We believe strongly in data and good public health data that helps us make decisions. Data gives you intelligence allows you to make good policy, and we've been focusing intensely. Sometimes when the White House and even some other leaders were not focusing on public health to make sure that particularly people in our community who we know had a disparate impact, that they were going to be able to make it through this most difficult time.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Benjamin. Mayor Ervin, I'll ask you the same question. How have you in Florence dealt with the pandemic?
I would concur with Mayor Benjamin. Our first focus was on human lives, on our citizens. What were their needs? We were sure that we had our mask mandate. I'm a nurse, so at the forefront, my focus was making sure people stayed as healthy as possible so that we could limit the spread of this disease of the COVID-19. So we introduced our mask ordinance along with reinforcing social distancing and washing your hands. So we took health first of all. Then when we received our CARE Act funds, we did set up funding so our businesses could actually request funds to help them maintain their business at the level they could with all the various restrictions they face. But not only that, we coordinated with our healthcare providers. We needed to be sure that everyone had access to testing because at the initial phase of this virus, we didn't have a vaccine, but what we could do was test to see where is this virus being sprayed the most at. So we actually had mobile test sites that our healthcare providers here in the city of Florence did for each community. And it was wonderful because people then were able to get tested, and if they were positive, they could actually self-quarantine. We also had PDRTA who provide transportation for the citizens. So it took a burden off of a lot of the citizens who have been low income or moderate income who would not have been able to afford to have the transportation to the site. But as we tested and worked with the healthcare providers as well, we want to be sure that we stayed connected with our state and federal government so we could be aware of any funds that came through or any treatment for this virus that we could provide for our citizens. Then when it comes to our businesses, when it came to our downtown area, we actually took on advertising for them, which took money that would usually be spent for advertisement. They didn't have to provide that anymore. It allowed them to shift to be able to go to a lower capacity with their service, but also they could do pickup and mobile delivery. So for us as a city, we coordinated with our citizens, with our healthcare, and also with our business owners so that we could maintain a sense of normalcy. We were in a new norm, and we want to be sure that we had utilized the greatest potential that we could to keep life as normal as it could, as we all try to survive this COVID-19 virus. And where we're at right now, we're working with our healthcare providers to make sure that everyone have access to the vaccine, which as you've seen through media, it has been hard, especially in your low to moderate income areas to get that. But our healthcare providers have worked selflessly together to make sure any and everyone who wanted the vaccine would be able to get it. So those are just a few of the things that we've done to be sure that we are meeting the needs of our citizens here in Florence. And as we're doing this, we're hoping to be able to support other neighboring cities, which we have done because we have 3 large healthcare providers here in the city who work with outlying sister areas. But that's just a quick synopsis of some of the things that we did.
Thank you, Mayor Ervin. Before I bring in Senator Scott, I want to ask both you, Ms. Ervin, Mayor Ervin, and you, Mayor Benjamin, as far as small and minority businesses are concerned, I'm sure there were particular challenges. Was there something that you and your municipalities did specifically to help those small and minority businesses? And we'll start with you, Mayor Benjamin.
Sure. No, absolutely, Trey. You know, we have a Mayor's Minority Business Council that we set up several years ago that's helped guide the process through our Office of Business Opportunities. We made sure, obviously, that as these funds were dispersed, the several $1 million, that they were dispersed in a very equitable manner, with 40% of those funds going to Black-owned businesses. Across the city, veteran-owned businesses, as well as a number of women-owned businesses. We've upped, of course, our mandatory MBE participation up to 15%. We exceeded that goal, and we're going to continue climbing there. And then also, just in the wake of all the challenges, we decided that it was time to have another disparity study. So we put our RFQ just a couple months ago for our first disparity study in gosh, maybe 15 years. But an intense focus on Black and brown businesses, particularly service-oriented businesses where a lot of our folks work, and we saw them having an immediate impact, particularly when businesses started shutting down back in March, with an intense focus on minority-owned and Black-owned businesses.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mayor Benjamin. What about you, Mayor Ervin, in Florence? Was there a particular focus on making sure those small and minority businesses were taken care of?
Well, once again, I'll concur with Mayor Benjamin. Many of the same focus that he had, we had as well. But one of the great things I've found by being a minority myself, and when it comes to business, I'm familiar with a lot of the minority business owners. So I have that direct communication with them. When the opportunity arose that we were giving the funds out from the CARE Act, I personally contacted several of the business owners to make sure they were aware of the funding. Because even though sometimes we may advertise that we have a city site, sometimes people just don't receive that information. Mm-hmm. But so there was a focus that I personally contacted them and allowed them to know. And by word of mouth, they got it to other business owners. But we had that focus that we have a listing of the businesses, so we know who is who. And we were sure that all of our businesses who desired the funding had access to receive that funding. So we had that focus, and we made sure that these businesses were businesses that were smaller businesses, especially located here in the city of Florence. So
right.
We didn't focus.
That's great. So glad that extra step was taken, because just like we know, Black and brown people have been affected more, due to COVID-19. The businesses have also been affected even more than other businesses for a variety of reasons. Senator Scott, I'd like to bring you in because I want to know what legislatively can be done to help not only small and minority businesses, but to help folks like Mayor Benjamin, Mayor Myers, Mayor Ervin, and our other panelists. How can you help them help the citizens that they serve?
Well, thank you, Trey, and for allowing me to participate in this forum. I just filed a bill, S644, which transfer the certification and contractual services from Department of Administration over to small and minority business. What we found as we debated the $1.2 billion in CARE Act, and it went to Department of Administration, they had an outside private company that made determination from the line items we gave from foundations, small businesses, along with the larger businesses in the state. A lot of small businesses did not receive what I would consider to be their fair equity in terms of funding. And so I've had some conversation with Department of Administration. And so we're going to put this particular bill has already been filed. It's in finance now. If not, we'll try to put it in the budget, or even when the CARES Act money comes, we'll add it as provision to allow the transfer. I think it's about 2 FTEs that's in the Department of Administration that actually does that review. But we need small and minority business more hands-on in trying to help us make that decision in terms of where this money is going to go. This money this time will be approximately $2.1 billion The last time we were very much so concerned as these small businesses, barber shops, nail shops, other kinds of smaller shops who a lot of hands-on, who was very easy to be able to be affected by the COVID, that there was enough unemployment insurance available. I think we spent over $1 billion. So a lot of money did go to make sure that at least there was some type of funding coming back into those households. We still ask, although it's not been mandated by the state, that you still continue to wear your mask. Now, one of the other things we are doing now, we're going to the 1B sector, that these small business owners immediately get the shots. And we're going to open it up. It may come faster than all the shots come out. And so it may, if you don't have your shot, it's so easy to get infected. That means you're going to be off for 2 weeks, provided if you don't get really, really sick. And so we're going to be I'm going to take a more hands-on approach this time to the small business part. I sat on finance, and as we reviewed the funding that came in, we made sure that the outside of just a small and minority business, you also have HBCUs and also small independent colleges. A lot of African Americans and other minorities work at those locations. So we made sure they've got funding. But I guess the biggest winner of the day in rural communities with small business we did find in the state, after many, many hours of work, we were able to take a bill that I've been working on since last year and create a broadband legislation. There's another bill I have out there too, which will expand broadband, which means those small minority businesses in rural counties that don't have very good broadband will be able to really connect to what's going on in these urban centers. It's a slow process. We know there's a lot of work being done on the federal side. So we're hoping that small minority business also take the advantage of expanding broadband in these communities, especially in working with the schools. We use portable device, but it's time for us to really get serious about these schools and also these small businesses being able to compete no matter where you are in the state.
Absolutely, Senator Scott. I think one of the things that came out during this pandemic is the incredible lack of internet access, broadband that is available. I mean, you can sometimes be downtown Columbia, Mayor Benjamin, and drop, don't have internet more or less in some of these rural areas. So I know that is such an important move to make sure, particularly, for our schools and of course our businesses, that internet access is available and strong and accessible. I want to bring in the other two panelists because you mentioned those billions of dollars that are being allocated. And I'm sure these gentlemen want to get in on there because they want to make sure that not only Mayor Benjamin in Columbia and in Greenville and in Charleston, they're getting some of those billion with a B dollars, that some of these smaller cities are also. Mayor Jerald Saunders, president of the South Carolina Conference of Black Mayors and mayor of the town of Swansea, joins us. Also, Councilman Johnny Wright, president of the South Carolina Association of Counties and Orangeburg County Council chair. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining the conversation. What do you need in your local governments to continue surviving, and what will you need to recover from the pandemic? Mayor Sanders, you can go first, please. Can you?
All right. Thank you for on this morning, and greeting to all of the rest of the panelists on the rostrum this morning. In the rural areas, we've been hit tremendously hard. First of all, what we would need is continued support and help from our national government and state government as well. The CARES Act has helped us tremendously with the testing for COVID, and now we are moving into the stage of the vaccine. We've partnered with our local medical center, Lexington Medical Center, in providing those vaccines in our area. Next 2 weeks, I understand, they will roll out their mobile units where they will come and initiate those vaccines to those who want them. We are stressing tremendously to those that might be a little skeptical about the vaccine to get vaccinated, that we can get back to our lives as we once knew it. We know it's not going to be the same. There's some things that we're going to have to do differently. And we are spreading the word in the rural areas and supporting our rural mayors in getting this done. Another thing that we need in the rural areas that has impacted our area is feeding the multitudes of people that have lost jobs and wages and so forth. Children are not being able to go to school where they were getting meals at least 2 or 3 times a day. Now that falls back on the families, and we've been working diligently with those partners in the community and in our government to help get folks fed. We have a lot of folks that have, as I said before, lost their jobs, so they're living in cars. And even we had a person just a week or so ago, we found that was living in the woods. And it's been devastating for the rural area people. So we're going to have to help find shelter and get people indoors, so to speak, back to their livelihoods. And these are just some of the things that the rural area is working very hard on. And I heard someone talk about the broadband, and that Senator Scott is something that we would love to work with you on and support you on because that's very much needed in the rural area, is the broadband.
Thank you. And you, Mr. Wright, Councilman Wright, can you unmute, please? Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so very much, and good morning to all of you, and thank you for inviting me on this panel this morning. And as I listened to most of the other panelists, I guess they have echoed most of the things, and I don't want to be redundant. But when you asked about what local government needs to continue to survive, is we need as much support as we can, because we have, exhausted a lot of resources when it comes to PPE and trying to reconfigure our places in our buildings and other places of that nature. But we also will continue to be careful and strategically approach all through this year here to see if we can get back where we need to be, to try to maintain a safe environment as possible in our buildings and for both of our employees and our citizens. We constantly also monitor the CD19 data, and especially when we get hopefully this year we'll be able to get back on our tax sale to try to raise some funds. We curtailed it last year because of the pandemic, and we hope that we will be able to have it this December. And also that so that we can have it in a safe manner. And our employees are currently eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine, and we have been trying our very best to have whole clinics where we can get the allocated amount to do so, and to get all of our people vaccinated as quick as possible. And we take advantage of any opportunity that we have when it comes to things like that. We keep applying for any kind of revenues from state or federal levels to try to help us get through this. We are the largest rural county in the state, and Orangeburg County has have a lot of challenges because of that. I mean, you're sparsely out. You got a lot of people out, and people was talking earlier about internet services and things of that nature. I represent a real rural area. I represent the lower eastern end of the county. I have all of Holly Hill, Utahville, Vance, part of Santee, my district alone, District 1. You know, and my district touches Berkeley County and Dorchester County. And even though those are fast-growing counties, and Orangeburg County is even kind of like squeezed in, but we are doing what we can to get through this. And I think that we have done very well considering where we are located, because we started early enough when this thing hit to try to tweak our resources and put things in place to kind of deal with it. And I think we've done well with that.
Well, I want to ask you, Councilman Wright, I want to also ask Mayor Sanders, especially the two of you, because you're in the more rural South Carolina. And I spoke about this in our last panel with the HBCUs. Do you feel like you're getting what you need from legislators?
Well, I would say this much, that we don't always get what we want. And sometimes
do you get what you need?
We don't always get what we need all the time, but I gotta say we have a good working relationship.
That's important
with our legislators, both federal and state, because of the fact that Councilman Cliven lives in Orangeburg County, and and Senator Matthews, before he retired, lived in Orangeburg County, and we had direct access to them. I've known Senator Matthews. He taught my two oldest kids in school before he got on the legislature. And I've, we've worked very well with that. It's always room for improvement. And as someone used to say, when you're in politics, you got to know how to count. Some things you just don't get, even though when they might be willing to support something, they might not have the numbers to always get it. Mm-hmm. So, and the rural area has real challenges because of the way the formula is set up. You know that a lot of things is by the numbers. And when you don't have the numbers, it makes a big difference. Our county is around 90,000, according to the census count, a little better. And so we have a lot of things that we don't qualify for because of the numbers, where in the Greenville and the Charlestons and the others, they do, and they kind of outbid us on that kind of stuff. And so I used to say to them, when you live downhill, everything falls downhill, and I can't say all I say behind that, but I live in the lower end of the county, and I just know how things do sometimes. So I understand, so I can only advocate and ask and do all I can to try to improve and get what I can get. So having said that, if you're asking me if I get everything I need, no, but this is not a perfect world. So.
No, I just want to know if you're getting what you need. And that's Orangeburg County Council Chair Johnny Wright. What about you, Mayor Sanders in Swansea? Are you getting what you need?
Well, I can say that we are getting what we need. We have formed partnerships with our state and local partners in the area, our elected officials. And I think we have one of the greatest senators in Lexington County that supports us. When I give him a call, he's always there, and he gets what we need. Also, I want to say that Mayor Benjamin has been a great asset to the rural areas, and me especially. We have formed a partnership. I can call on him, and he has partners that he's not afraid to share with us and help us to get the various materials and whatever situation we might be in, to help us and lead us in the right direction to get the kind of help we need. And that's very helpful, because in unfortunate times that we're in right now, those partnerships are very helpful. They're very important. And I think that we have done that, and we want to reach out to our other mayors throughout South Carolina and doing the same. So I think to answer your question, we are getting what we need at this point. However, as other panelists have said, we're going to need much more going forward.
Right. That's Mayor Jerald Sanders from the town of Swansea. And it is important. And that's why I wanted to ask the question, because relationships are important. And it's great that you have that relationship with Mayor Benjamin. And you've got to have those relationships also with the folks that represent your cities, your towns, your communities. Thank you so much for joining us for the 2021 South Carolina Legislative Black Caucus Minority Business Forecast. My name is Trey Taylor. We are talking to local government officials. Of course, you just heard from Mayor Jerald Sanders, the mayor of the town of Swansea. Also next to him is Councilman Johnny Wright. He's in Orangeburg. He's Orangeburg County Council Chair. Mayor Teresa Ervin, the mayor of Florence, and then Mayor Steve Benjamin with Columbia, South Carolina. And next to him, Senator John Scott. He represents District 19 in Richland County. I want to encourage you to post and share this information out, because this is such an important conversation as we shift the conversation to working with minority business. How would you grade your working relationships with DBEs and minority businesses within your community? Mayor Ervin, I want to start with you, please, ma'am. If you could unmute your mic. Thank you.
Well, being the newest mayor on the block, I'm aware of the businesses and I'm building those relationships. As a city councilwoman, I also had that relationship. So being able to attend various meetings. Many of the minority businesses in the city of Florence, the owners are friends of mine. So I have that direct relationship. One of the things that I know that we need to work on is that when we have minority businesses, which are a part of our chamber, several of the smaller businesses feel like they don't receive the same support businesses receive. So as mayor, that's one of the things that I want to focus on. Improving that network. So when you have a minority business who's a part of any organization, that they are giving that equal opportunity to present their services, but when opportunity arises, that they receive the information. So for me, it will be building those relationships, listening to the minority businesses, seeing what they say they need, and then focus so that we can get those things provided. And recognizing the fact that a lot of time minority businesses don't always have access to the same funds that larger businesses may have. And that was one of the issues that actually came up, especially during COVID-19, was having the access to the funds, even if it's a grant or loan, being able to open those gateways so that they can have access to the funds. Funds, when it comes to a business, is really what keeps a business afloat.
Absolutely.
So for me, that will be my focus as mayor, is improving that network for availability for minority and small businesses to have access to funding. But not only that, when it comes to being able to have the service on the internet media, just as we've spoken about broadband, your smaller businesses and minority businesses sometimes don't have the media present that is needed so that their businesses can be, advertised. So focus upon funding and also media for our small businesses will be two of the things I've heard a lot about, and I do want to focus upon improving for our small and minority businesses.
Do you have any ideas of how to do that specifically, Mayor Ervin?
Well, actually, that's great. We have a Florence Downtown Development Corporation. Our leader or director for that actually works with the businesses. And one of the things I said that during COVID-19, this corporation, the Florence Downtown Development Corporation, took over the advertisement, which actually helped the small businesses and the minority businesses to start achieving that media presence. So we're actually already doing that. We just received the Downtown Mainstream Award. And one of the things that was recognized were the things that we were doing to help our businesses to be more publicly aware of what was being provided, that media service. So we're actually already doing it. And we've started primarily because of COVID, but now that we've done it and we see that need, we can build upon it. So
Right.
We can expand that. And there's some other things that we're looking at how we can do it, but as we're working upon, I don't want to speak it right now until we can truly develop it. So
Yeah.
We're working on those now.
Thank you. Mayor Benjamin, I want to ask you a similar question, but I want to flip it a little bit because I think, and if you don't mind my saying, I think Columbia, you have been very successful in working with your small minority businesses and your DBE, particularly through your Office of Business Opportunities. What would you say to, or advice you would give, or some of the things that have worked for you in Columbia, working with those smaller minority businesses that you could perhaps help some of these other mayors that they could implement in their cities and towns?
Well, I think the same intentionality that Mayor Myers-Ervin discussed is what you have to bring. That when you have the greatest pandemic since 1918, the greatest economic disruption we've seen certainly in election years since 1932, and we of course can't forget about the great social unrest that we see because of systemic racism and police violence since 1968, all wrapped up into 1 year. You have to actually find ways that you can do things, as the mayor said, for businesses that they would normally do for themselves. How do you take these expenses off their ledger and offer these services? So we've been very aggressive, as you know, through the Office of Business Opportunities under Melissa Linda's leadership, reaching out directly to businesses, finding out what you need. And when we decided to set up these different funds and these partnerships, we got the money out the door probably within 10 days. I mean, we were very aggressive. Some of the issues, I believe maybe Mayor Sanders mentioned around PPE, making sure that businesses, remember very early on, people couldn't find PPE. I mean, it was very difficult to find it. So we were able to use the buying authority of the city to procure it and make sure that folks had it, understanding that access to PPE, particularly to folks who are working in the service economy, people who needed it the most, and quite frankly, were getting infected and dying at a higher rate, making sure that was there. So it does require really focused efforts, really focused programs, a significant amount of outreach, not a whole lot of red tape, and then this being just as flexible as you can possibly be. But focusing on the issues that everyone talked about. Now, how do you make sure that people have housing? How you deal with issues of food insecurity? Focusing on the real health disparities that exist, and all of us, we sometimes we were just walking pre-existing conditions. You know, the digital divide. The focus. Senator Scott made a reference earlier about focusing more on small businesses. You're not going to find many legislators in this country who do more to help small businesses than John Scott, including helping do a deep dive. We had a project, Trey, over in the colony in Bethel Bishop, trying North Point now, trying to make sure that the kids over there had access to Wi-Fi, so that they could get to their homework and everything else. But this is not small business oriented, but all understanding that interconnectivity. Senator Scott has led the charge in successive years to make sure that livability issues, access issues to families and children over there, and that's not even his district, that those issues are being met. So he's been a champion for us. The issues that I mentioned earlier about bank access and making sure that as this PPP money started flowing to businesses, we had this kind of stand in the gap, working with banks like Optus and great companies like Dietz and Diane Sumter to make sure that businesses that normally would get passed over, that we had to make sure we stood in the gap and make sure they got access to these PPP money at a rate that they also deserved. So it just requires the kind of focused intentionality that Mayor Myers-Ervin talked about. And I appreciate Mayor Sanders' comments. The reality is that we keep a pretty active text thread going between mayors, and we just share information as much as possible. And the reality is that the problems that I'm dealing with here are the same in Florence, the same in Swansea, the same that Councilman Wright's dealing with down in Orangeburg County. They're scalable. They're a little bit different if you go to rural, suburban, or urban, but they're all the same. And just having really good partners like Senator Scott and obviously Congressman Clyburn and others that help us get help to people now has been the key to success. And but we know we still got a whole lot more to do.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Benjamin. Senator Scott, I'm going to get you in here in just a minute, but before that, I want to ask Mayor Sanders about the South Carolina Conference of Black Mayors. Tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing with that organization and how you all, as Mayor Benjamin said, can come together to kind of address some of these issues.
Well, what we have done, I began my reign as president of the South Carolina Conference of Black Mayors in October. And what we've been doing lately is to kind of restructure, reorganize our group that we can reach out to other Black mayors across South Carolina, because we want to bring that nucleus together. Because with numbers, we're strong. We have a strength where we can continue to work with the Legislative Black Caucus and others to make things happen in South Carolina. We're reaching out to, at this point, to other Black mayors to come and join the organizations. Perhaps they have not even heard of the South Carolina Conference of Black Mayors, and I think a lot for the help of Mayor Benjamin. He's been very helpful with us on that endeavor to strengthen our numbers, that we can reach out to other mayors and assist them and help them doing situations like we're in right now with the pandemic and other situations that they might face in the future. So those are just minute, some things that we're trying to do at this point.
If people want more information, other mayors want more information about the South Carolina Conference of Mayors, how can they reach out?
They can reach out to me, either give me a call at 803-622-8361, or they can email me at jsanders57@live.com.
All right.
And we'll make sure that they get the information.
Councilman Johnny Wright, I want to ask you also about the South Carolina Association of Counties. You're the president. Congratulations. Tell us a little bit about that organization.
Well, it's basically an organization that really comes together to share information and to support each other, as just like the mayors were talking about, sharing information with each other and be there for each other. Of course, the difference is that the makeup of the counties are completely different. And you have a lot of small minority counties, you have a lot of small rural counties, you have a lot of different issues that's there. But what the Association of County does is that it's a group that's basically set up to make sure that they go and advocate to Senator Scott and those on the needs of the county, on what we need from local government, from them to help local government survive. And that's basically the purpose of it. I mean, that's basically, we have, the group is, they have several attorneys, and each one of them assigned different levels. It's almost like a committee. You know, you have a committee with land use. It depends on what the topic is, and they go to. We tell them, we meet about 3 or 4 times a year, and we come up with things that we want to make law, and then we pass that on to those attorneys, and those attorneys go to the State House and advocate that to the senators and the House of Representatives and all that, on this is what local government wants and this is what we need. We get some of it and some of it we don't get, but I think if you keep the communication going between the legislators and your local people, you get pretty good what you want to get to a point. Senator Matthews and Representative Gilda Cobb-Hunter, which represent my district, we have a very good working relationship down here. We meet monthly, what we call a concerned citizen group, and they share the information that's going on up there, and then they ask for our input. They will say, we can make this happen or we can't make this happen. And that's a good comfort level for the county. And we work very well together in getting other things done. This year has been a little different, being the president of the South Carolina Association of County, which I'm very much grateful for the opportunity to do that. But because of the pandemic, we did most things virtually, and a lot of other meetings we canceled because of that situation. So it's a little different this year. So it's been a challenge here also, but technology has helped us to do what we can.
All right, Thank you, Councilman Wright. I tell you, time flies when you're talking about important issues and having fun. Senator Scott, I want to leave the conversation today asking you the final question about what the state can do to help DBEs, to help minority businesses, particularly to help, again, these folks, these mayors, these councilmen help their small and minority and women-owned businesses in South Carolina.
Well, thank you again. One of the things I want us to focus on is where the state is putting its funding. And even with the new CARES Act money, it's going to be in the next 2 years focused basically a lot on infrastructure, along with vaccines and others. Now, we've done a lot of work with SCDOT. They now have a minority director who's been there now some 5 or 6 years. We've been able to make sure that director is at the cabinet level working exclusively with the director. And we've been able to exceed in the past what minorities have been able to get in terms of contractual service contracts from SCDOT. So I invite them to become more involved in that process. Also, what was left on the table for discussion, I can't let this go by because the Councilman Wright mentioned it, feeding the hungry people. Along with trying to getting the community back health, that would recommend they begin to talk to USDA. Last month, we gave out almost 1,100 food boxes to families. This month, we'll probably do 2,200. So begin to have that relationship. The other part is for our business to become even more healthier, began to work with the bankers and walking away from this particular conference today. It left me to do some additional work, and that is to begin to look at where we can begin to build a small business institute so we can bring not only just small business, but also the government entities and taking a look at what they can do for contractual services. I want to go back to a comment Mayor Benjamin made, and he talked about something very important, and that was partnering. Began to have partnerships with local government. And yes, I'm enjoying a good partnership with the mayor on another project as well. And I think this is a second large project. One we did when it first came into the Senate, a big project on North Main Street. And that partnership, I think they probably net some $7 million from that partnership. So you got to begin to ask your legislators, what can y'all do in terms of finding funding that we create partnership with these state agencies, especially in terms of the funds that are out there. Well, I also want members of local government that we're getting ready to do reapportionment, and also the census information will be coming in. Most of your funds that you get from the state is done through what's called revenue sharing. I think that's what Mayor Sanders was talking about. A lot of the rural counties have lost population, so real good discussion to make sure there's equity, especially in a growing county like Florence County, that the new Mayor Ervin is there to make sure Florence gets its proper amount of funding so it doesn't begin to lose ground and growth. Because once you do that, there's no additional tax base that these small businesses can receive from local government. The other part is just being patient until we grow the business back and people begin to move around again. And to spend money. We depend a lot on visitors coming to the state and accommodations, which is a big issue whether you're at the coast or in the upstate. As these small counties lose population, we've got to gain control to figure out what's going on. Now we increase teacher pay; they'll get an additional $650, but that's just the beginning. There's another piece of legislation I have out there. Teachers incentive pay, so we can get young teachers and young folk to want to move back in these rural counties. You can't continue to educate them. They move into the urban centers. Now the state did grow from 4.68 million to approximately 5.2 million people. But the question is, where did these young people go? Mm-hmm. Now, we're educating them, but they're not coming back at home. And so we've got a lot of work to do outside of in small counties as we see franchise companies coming into these locations. But the minority companies aren't getting the franchise contract and they're not becoming part of the franchises. So they're going to move to locations that they can. We've been working with our colleges and universities on diversity. Diversity is about keeping our brightest home. And a lot of our minority students and majority students have been going elsewhere. When they educate them, they don't come back to us. So we can't continue to bring Fortune 500 companies into South Carolina. We don't have young people available to be able to work. So it's not just one answer to how we fix a small minority a problem, but it's just a lot of things coupled into one. I really appreciate us having this conversation today. At least it begins that conversation of so many things that we need to do so that we can help support our minority businesses, from education, which includes diversity, to providing infrastructure, to providing just small capital funding. And so we're going to continue to work on these projects. We're going to continue to work with our HBCUs and trying to create some institutes so they too can help us. They've got the young people there and try to get them to understand what's going on. But early on, gain some working with these corporations that are already here. The question early on talked about broadband. Broadband this time in rural counties is different. We're working with co-ops and Santee Cooper. These are people that you're very much so quite familiar with. These are the folk who can give you information as we expand broadband. But the best part of all of it, the co-ops belong to the people in which they serve. Thank you so much for allowing me to participate today.
Thank you so much, Senator John Scott. I appreciate it. You made some great points. And as a matter of fact, we actually spoke about the importance and need for not only HBCUs conversing and collaborating with legislators in our last panel, but also the need for to make sure there are things for those young people to come back to South Carolina for. So I will say the same thing I said in the last panel. I do hope, as you said, that this is just the beginning of what should be, can be, needs to be an ongoing conversation so that legislators can hear from the cities and towns in South Carolina, and those mayors, those councilmen and women can also talk to and communicate with the folks at the State House so that there's an open line of communication so everybody can be heard and get what they want and need. Senator John Scott, District 19, Richland County, thank you again so much for joining us. Mayor Steve Benjamin of Columbia, South Carolina. Mayor Teresa Ervin with Florence, South Carolina. And also Councilman Jimmy Wright, President of the South Carolina Association of Counties and Orangeburg County Council Chair. And finally, Mayor Jerald Sanders, President of the South Carolina Conference of Black Mayors and the Mayor of the town of Swansea. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank all of you for watching the South Carolina Legislative Black Caucus Minority Business Forecast. Before we leave this panel, I do want to recognize 3 young African Americans who became mayor in their cities, the first time African American mayors. And we'll put that graphic up. Robert Woodbury from the town of Mullins, LaDonna Hall from Sally, and Marcus Rivera from Barnwell. Congratulations to those 3. And we're so glad that they are making African-American history right here in South Carolina. Thank you again so much. Coming up next, the Small Business Roundtable. Please continue to post, share, and tag this important information out, and we'll be right back with more from the South Carolina Legislative Black Caucus Minority Business Forecast. I'm Trey Taylor. The South Carolina Legislative Black Caucus was founded in 1975 with the mission to improve the quality of life for Black and minority communities in South Carolina. Since its founding under the leadership of Judge Ernest Finney Jr., the caucus has been the catalyst behind significant legislative action and policy changes in South Carolina that brought efforts of justice and fairness for all South Carolinians. Caucus efforts have led to state statute requiring consideration of minority businesses in the process of awarding state contracts, the creation of the Governor's Office for Small and Minority Businesses, the South Carolina Commission of Minority Affairs, and the state's Human Affairs Commission. The caucus is currently comprised of 45 members, including 12 state senators and 33 members of the South Carolina House of Representatives. In January 2021, State Representative Patricia Hennigan assumed the role of chair of the caucus, marking the third woman to be elected to lead the historic organization. Chair Hennigan has announced an active and comprehensive plan for the caucus that centers on increasing overall exposure and opportunities for minority communities across South Carolina. The South Carolina Legislative Black Caucus remains committed to its founding motto, "Like limbs, we reach toward the sun, but feed from a common root." The caucus remains readily available to serve the citizens of South Carolina, continuously fighting for justice and fairness.
Good morning to the South Carolina Legislative Black Caucus. I bring you greetings from the R.C. Wilson Group and the Wilson family. I've been blessed to have been able to work with the caucus for over 25 years, working to help to improve the quality of life of families in our communities. The 2021 Minority Business Forecast proves to continue that legacy under the leadership of Chairwoman Pat Hennigan. I am excited and I'm looking forward to being enriched by the panelists, the panels, and the moderator. Good luck. God bless you. And I am excited to be a part of this. Thank you.
The Carolina Panorama has been the news and information source for the African American community in South Carolina since 1986. Founded by Nathaniel Abraham Sr., the publication is now in its second generation and being managed by Nathaniel Abraham Jr. Like and follow the Panorama on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and pick up your copy of the Carolina Panorama every Thursday. Positive news for a positive community. The Carolina Panorama.
Our story is we were live streaming way before it was popular. We're trying to get event planners to live stream their events, but they were like, nah, people won't show up. Well, good thing for us, COVID happened, and these same people came showing up with masks saying, hey, what was that you said about live streaming? God's blessed us to be able to help the government and political campaigns and shows and many other organizations get their messages out. Very important information, especially in this pandemic. We'd love to help your business out also at www.freethinkersradio.com.
Hello again, 2021 Minority Business Forecast participants. We hope that you enjoyed this event and were able to take some useful information back to your business and community. Remember that the members of the South Carolina Legislative Black Caucus are always here to assist you, and you can contact us anytime. I suggest the caucus host this event because I believe we must do more to help our Black and minority communities, and you can set the date that the Minority Business Forecast will be back next year. I thank you again for participating. God bless you, your business, your families, our great state, and our great country. Until the next time, goodbye. Goodbye.
Thank you for joining us for the 2021 South Carolina Legislative Black Caucus Minority Business Forecast. Continue to tag, post, and share this informative session. And please continue to comment. Your questions will be reviewed and addressed at a later date. For more information on today's Minority Business Forecast or the South Carolina Legislative Black Caucus, contact Devin Owens at dowens.sclbc@gmail.com. Please like and follow the caucus on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. On behalf of Madam Chair Representative Patricia Hennigan and the entire SCLBC, thank you again. God bless. And remember, Black business, women business, minority business, your business matters to the South Carolina Legislative Black Caucus.